Hey, Dave, we were just discussing you got some seminars coming up?
We do. This Thursday at 10, 2, and 7 in the Ross Moyne Business Center. We have a 1-hour seminar where we talk about issues affecting older persons and their caregivers. The issue we just talked about is a typical one, but we go over a multitude of issues. People can register for the free seminar by calling our office. It's 717-697-3223, and we'd be glad to have them come and meet us and learn a little bit about what's on their mind.
Well, I would encourage people to do that. What's the number again?
697-3223. The number spells my peace.
And I know a lot of our listeners have been to that. I say a lot, but enough have been there that I've gotten some feedback that it's very useful. So I really appreciate it, and I do appreciate you chiming in there. I like to know when I'm right.
Well, you are, more often than not.
All right.
Hey, I had a Mother's Day present that's too late for your mom, but it's a Father's Day. Do you have time quick?
Sure.
Okay, here's the thing. It came on the New York Times. It's the idea of a professor of gerontology from Kansas. The idea is send your parent an empty box with a note in it. Tell them how much you love them. Tell them that you understand that they're tired of accumulating stuff, and offer that they can fill the box with stuff they don't need anymore that they think you ought to have, and that you'll show up and see them and pick it up. I just thought it was a great idea.
That's funny.
Yeah, isn't it?
All right, my friend.
Thanks.
We'll see what happens.
Take care.
Well, I'm going to be joined here in a few seconds by Lisa Grace, and I just want to give a little background here. She is a JAG officer, and we'll talk a little bit about that, because that's originally why I wanted to get her on. But she also happens to be running for the Register of Wills and Clerk of the Orphans Court in Cumberland County, and her opponent in the Republican primary is a woman named Nancy Godfrey. And because this radio show is on the public airwaves, we have to give, or will always give, equal time if we bring on one candidate or the other. So I want to make sure that you know we did extend an invitation to candidate Godfrey to appear here. She still can change her mind, but my understanding from her attorney is that she would not be appearing on the air. And what I'm going to do is time how much time Lisa's on the air with me and offer that exact same amount of time to her. Obviously, if she doesn't call by sufficient time in front of 3 o'clock, that ain't going to happen. But we did offer it, so I just want to make sure anybody knows that. And if anybody wants to complain to the FCC, I'm ready, baby. All right. Hey, Lisa, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. Now, you're a lawyer. In fact, you graduated from the Dickinson School of Law a year or two ahead of me, if I recall correctly.
Yes, that's correct.
You used to have a really cute roommate named, well, I'll leave her name out of it. But, that said, you then at some point ended up involved with the JAG. You want to tell us about that?
Yes, actually, I joined the military right after high school. So I was already in the military when I went through college and law school. I was in the Pennsylvania Air National Guard after a stint on active duty. So after I got my law degree and my passed the bar, I was able to secure a position in the JAG Corps. So I'm currently still in the Pennsylvania Air National Guard, but I serve as a JAG now.
And what's your rank, in case anybody wants to know? Dan Steele wants to know. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, I'm currently a lieutenant colonel.
That's pretty impressive. We call those light colonels in Carlisle. That's the sort of the equivalent of everybody who's hanging around the War College at any given point, right?
Correct. Light colonel or light bird?
I just started the timer now, of course, so I'll just add a minute to it. That said, tell me a little bit about this Register of Wills and Clerk of the Orphans Court. I mean, what is the job and what do they do?
The job is actually located at Cumberland County Courthouse. It's considered one of the row offices. It's a position that's ahead. It's actually a dual position. We have the Register of Wills portion and the Clerk of Orphans Court portion. The Register of Wills office deals mainly with probate. When someone passes away, you need to open up a file for their estate. If they have a will, you can. The process is probating the will. If they don't have a will, you can still open up a file so that you can administer the estate, what the person has left behind.
Right.
So that's what the Register of Wills office does. The Clerk of Orphans Court is kind of a hodgepodge. You have your civil court, which is the pathonetary. You have your criminal court, which is the clerk of courts. And Orphans Court kind of does a little bit of everything else. That's where adoptions are filed. If there's an incapacitated person or a file to find them incapacitated, that's the court that handles that.
Adoptions, right?
Yes.
Adoptions and
marriage license.
Marriage
goes through
licenses.
that office.
That's right. That's the office that's most likely to become controversial if somebody tries to make a same-sex marriage filing. We won't talk about that today.
Right.
Now, I guess I want to know a little bit more about generally as a JAG officer, because that's really the reason I wanted to get you on, was to talk, what does a JAG officer do, just so we understand? Because I sometimes have military people show up in my office and they say, well, I talked to the JAG officer and he said, get a civilian attorney. So obviously they don't do what we do, and you've also been a civilian attorney, so I think you can compare the roles of the two for us.
Correct. In your standard JAG office, it's at a wing level or a battalion level in the Army. They do a variety of work, and a lot of it depends on what is at that base or that post. It could be anything from an environmental law issue to a contract issue, but we do not represent individuals in civil actions. And so that's why you get military members that say, hey, JAG told me to get a civilian attorney. What we can do for the member, though, let's say they are going through a divorce or custody action or even criminal charges, they can walk into our office and we can give them a general idea of what the law provides in that area.
Right.
But we cannot represent them, and so we usually refer them to their local bar association that has a referral service that will refer them to a lawyer that practices in that area. So we don't even recommend lawyers by name.
Now, as a JAG officer, do you, when you're actually in a military tribunal, are you the defense attorney, the prosecutor, or the judge, or how does that work?
Well, that depends. It depends on a lot of things. On active duty, they actually have dedicated folks similar to our prosecutor defense office or the but in the Air National Guard, what we do here in Pennsylvania, we have 3 wings throughout the state. One is located near Philadelphia. It's Willow Grove. We have one out in Pittsburgh, and then we have the one here in Harrisburg that most people are familiar with in your listening area. Whichever one of those wings is bringing charges against the party or the accused, they act like the prosecution. One of the other 2 wings will be brought in as defense counsel, and then the 3rd wing will act as a judiciary position. Even though they don't make the decision, there's a group of members that's similar to a jury. They actually make the decision, but the judicial position will rule on motions. So we do it that way so there's no conflict. The defense counsel comes from a completely different base, a different chain of command, and that way you don't have to worry about undue command influence. And so that's worked out well. So to answer your question, it depends on who brings the charges, what position I would play.
So you get to play all 3 kind of, if...
Depending on what's happening, yes. And it makes us deal a lot better with each other because we know next month the roles might be reversed. So we're very civil with each other. Interesting.
And in terms of a JAG officer, I mean, I guess if the base commander needs some legal counsel, do they come to you and say, you know, I'm trying to do something here with the base, and you act like their staff attorney, or how does that?
Yes, and usually that's the head JAG in the wing office. That's their job. They take care of the commander and keep him out of any hot water, regardless of what he's trying to do. Now, I am actually located at a separate unit. It's called a geographically separated unit because I'm not located at any of the 3 wings. Mm-hmm. I'm actually located in State College. There's one small Air Guard unit up there, and we actually are an air operations squadron. So we help run airspace, control airspace, or support it, defend it, depending on what location you are in the world. So they need a JAG on the floor to help make legal advice, or to give legal advice to the commander who will be making the decision on the airspace. Right.
Very interesting, actually. And I don't think a lot of people realize, but the Air Guard here in Pennsylvania is actually quite active around the world.
It is, particularly with the 193rd Special Operations Wing. They are the most deployed Guard unit in the world, and they're always out the door.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I've always tried to figure out what the National Guard does, you know, and then you realize they pretty much do everything that the regular military does. They just also work for the state from time to time.
Right, that's correct. It depends on what title we're under. Title 32 is state duty. Title 10 is federal duty. So it depends on whose pocket is paying for the service.
And I know you haven't had a lot of time to prepare to come on today because I gave you such short notice about this. But Pennsylvania did adopt something recently to streamline our military process or military laws.
Yes. Most people are familiar with the UCMJ, which is the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
Right.
That only applies when you're in Title 10, which is federal duty. When you're in state duty, though, we had what was called the Pennsylvania Code of Military Justice, or PCMJ. The problem with our current PCMJ is it was based on federal laws from 1912. So you can imagine if someone went AWOL, I don't recall the exact dollar amount, but you could find them like $2 a day. Well, most people would rather go AWOL and not worry about the $2 a day.
Right.
Where back in 1912, that may have made a big difference. So the JAG community came out with a model code, and it was a code that any state could take and modify to fit within the state laws.
Right.
But it looks very similar to the UCMJ. So it makes it easier for the lawyers and the military members that they know generally whether they're on Title 10 or Title 32, the laws are very similar. So we updated that. That was in the end of 2012 that it was actually signed, and it goes into effect October 2013.
So I guess, and I understand this entirely, because a lot of times if you're trying to advise a client and you say, okay, here's what you need to know, but oh yeah, by the way, on certain days of the week, the law's going to be different, and then trying to figure out which day it is and what to do. What you're basically saying is, at 1 minute, if you're federally activated, these are the rules. But if you're on state activation, these are the rules. But now if they're closer to each other, it's easy to come up with general rules of thumb, like don't go AWOL, because it's going to cost you too much either way.
Correct. And that, it makes it a better use for everyone. And we are the 15th state to adopt the model code. Mm-hmm. And so I expect most states will, because it makes it easier for everyone. I got to go to break.
We're talking with Lisa Grayson. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're here with Lisa Grayson discussing a few things. Let me start the timer here again. All right, Lisa.
Yes.
I guess I'm going to keep you on for about 2 more minutes here. What is it you hope to accomplish, or why are you running? What's going on here?
Well, the current office is being held by Glenda Farnes-Strasbaugh, and she is actually running for a different position. So she's no longer going to hold this seat. And I had some folks approach me because they realized that with the experience that I have as a lawyer, particularly in the core functions of the Register of Wills office, along with my military years of experience with budgets and staff,
mm-hmm.
that if you take all that experience, it really fits well with what the needs are of the Register of Wills office. So I think I can bring what that office needs to from day one. There's not going to be that startup as if you were having someone in there without any experience.
Right, and you've done wills, you've done estates, you've worked in all those areas of the law.
Correct. Actually, I not only do estates with my private practice, but in the military, that is one of the main functions of the JAG office. They do a lot of wills and powers of attorney and estate planning for folks. And then I've also been involved in the Wills for Heroes program, mm-hmm. which is a program where local attorneys volunteer their time and effort to do estate planning documents for your first responders, your police officers, your firefighters, EMT, fire police, and that. So I've done that for several years now as well.
And if I recall right, used to do some work with children and youth services as well, which also works with that office from time to time.
Correct. I did work with children and youth for more than a decade. It takes a special kind of person to do that kind of work when you're dealing with children who are being hurt and trying to get them to a better place.
Right, and there's critical that a lot of times they get adopted into like a forever home as opposed to being stuck in the foster care system forever.
Great, and that's probably the best outcome that we get for those children, that they get to a family that's safe and welcoming, and they know that they can continue on with their lives.
Well, Lisa, I wish you luck, and I know you'll do a good job.
All right,
thank you very
for
much.
Having me.
No, my pleasure. And I've got you at 11 minutes and 17 seconds, which is roughly probably accurate. So I just want to make sure that candidate Godfrey knows, since she's running on the opposite side, that if she can call in within the next 20 minutes or so, we'll get her her 11 minutes and 20-some seconds for equal time. So I don't want to hear any carping or complaining later. And if somebody wants to write the FCC and say I violated some law, I offered equal time, and that's all I have to do. But you know how these lawyers are. They never quite seem to get it, particularly when they're outside of their field. 540-0580 if you want to call in and talk. Of course, we're still waiting for the big decisions on gay marriage here, and we don't know what the Supreme Court's going to do. There's a lot of controversy on that. However, my little lawyers group that gets together called Inns of Court, by a vote of about 20-something to 5, pretty much figures gay marriage is on, and that Proposition 8 is going to be struck down. And I think the same 5 guys or girls voted the same way on the one side of it. But the conventional wisdom amongst the lawyers seems to be that that's where it's headed based on the legal arguments and the stances. And that was done after a presentation by a group of lawyers who each gave argument as to what each side was arguing. So it wasn't completely in a vacuum, if that makes sense. Blake, you're on. Well, am I going to get you here? All right, Blake, I got you.
Hi, Carl.
How are you?
Did Bob Durgan talk to you about a question I called in for him about a week or two ago about a guy I worked with was a convicted felon, and this was before 9/11, though the original one, walked in a gun store and could buy a black powder pistol, a replica of a Navy Colt. You load it six shot. There, you load it black powder. Can you still do that with no background check?
If you have, under federal law, black powder weapons are not considered.
That's what they said, but a bow and arrow kill you just as dead, and the government wants to do all this background stuff. It's a joke.
Yeah. So now there's still, if you have a federal disability, you may still have black powder weapons, an inline muzzleloader, things like that. On the other hand, if you have a state prohibition on firearms, that does regulate black powder weapons. But if you go crime-free from 10 years after you get off probation, we can restore your Pennsylvania firearms rights. And even if you're a felon, you can then go back to black powder.
Yeah, that's what I mean, because he's a convicted felon from a violent crime from back then, a guy that I worked with, and he walked in back in. I didn't know if he could still do that or not, or if they changed that.
Yeah, now, if you've ever been flintlock hunting, you'll know why black powder weapons aren't always the best.
Well, not flintlock, he bought percussion.
Well, I was just going to say, on the other hand, I was getting there. I was going to say, on the other hand, if you've ever used an inline muzzle loader, they're very reliable and accurate.
Absolutely. Like, that's what I was telling Bob, and Bob couldn't believe it. And I said, if that kid up there at school in Connecticut would have had, let's see, they're saying about banning the high-capacity magazines, if he'd had 4 of them, let's see, 6, 12, 18, 24, according to my arithmetic, that's 24 shots right there.
There's a video on YouTube, which I put on Facebook a while back, where the guy shows people reloading clips, but then they take a 1906 6-shooter, and the guy puts off 20-some rounds out of the thing in less than a minute. So it's pretty interesting.
Oh, I never saw that. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, check that out. All right, Blake, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to find out if that was still
if Bob,
anything about that or not.
Bob takes very careful notes, so I'm surprised that he hadn't asked me about it yet.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Bob.
Art's laughing. Art, why are you laughing when I said Bob takes careful notes?
Whatever.
Gene, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. What's going on?
Hi. Is there a time limit to contest a will that has never been settled?
Is there a time limit to contest a will that's never been settled? The answer is, I believe you have to contest a will within 1 year of it being probated. But that would be just a contest to the validity of the will itself. If it's a state issue involving an accounting issue or impropriety or that sort of thing, I think those things are live right up until the time of the final accounting. When that's presented, you can object to the final accounting, and then you get an auditor, and you go from there.
Okay, so my mother died 5 years ago. Her will has never been settled, and it was worth well over $1 million, and she left me $2,500.
Right, and the answer there is, if you're contesting the will itself, I think the statute of limitations is 1 year from when it's either death or when the will. I think it has to be when the will's actually probated. But that's the issue there. If it's to fight the will itself. If, on the other hand, somebody's not following the will, or they're not handling assets correctly, or that sort of thing, and you want to fight over that, then that would be at the time of the final accounting. So if your mother only left you $2,500 and you thought she was incompetent at the time,
she wasn't.
you would have had to deal with it right then and there. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever side of the equation you're on, under Pennsylvania law, you can absolutely write a child out of a will.
Okay.
All right?
All right. I thought you had to leave them something.
No, not the children. Only state that applies to is Louisiana.
Okay, another question is she left money to my children, and it's in a trust, and the person that's settling the trust is not related, and they have filed for bankruptcy, and there would be a lot of money involved. Did they have to be audited every year of what they're doing with this money?
Well, if there's a trust,
yeah.
I think anybody who's a beneficiary of the trust would have the power to request an audit. They would have what we call standing.
It's called standing?
Yeah, meaning I can't just walk around and ask for an accounting of somebody's trust.
Okay.
But if I'm a beneficiary of the trust, I would have the right to have an accounting to know that the trust is being handled appropriately.
Okay, so my child should go to the lawyer that's settling the estate to get the audit every year?
Could ask that person, yeah. And if they don't, then your child probably needs to get their own lawyer.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
All right,
Thank
Gene.
you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
540-0580, Carl Rominger here. When we come back from the break, we'll try Mom again. All right, we're back here. Let's see. I can't talk and dial my mom's number at the same time. I'll goof it all up. I tried the other phone now. I tried the cell phone first. We'll try the home phone. Hello? Hello? I think she tried to answer. I don't know, Art. Oh, my God, she's lost it. She can't even answer the phone anymore. I'll tell her I lost my foot in a car accident. Let's see what she says.
Hello.
Hello. How are you, Mother?
How are you?
Good. Did you try to answer the phone a minute ago? What happened there?
I did, and it just hung up on me for some reason.
I was getting concerned about you. Do I have to send one of my brothers over to the house to do
I think so.
cognitive tests?
Teach me all these newfangled things, you know?
Right. Well, how do you still, does your phone still have like the circle on it that you go back and forth with your finger?
No, I don't have a dial phone, but if I did, it would be, the retro, kind
just
of
be
a
retro.
Thing. Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
Did you buy a Powerball ticket? Everybody wants to know.
We did. We bought it as a group at the diner, all of us that have coffee and breakfast together. There's
Great.
like 20 of us.
Great. Now, did the person who bought them buy some extra tickets for themselves and they're going to sort them all out? Or are they held safely somewhere? I mean, how's this working?
It's held by a good friend of mine, and she will keep them safe, and no, she didn't buy any extras.
Right, because that always comes up. People go, I bought 20 for the pool and one for myself, and the one I bought for myself won, and none of the pools hit.
Well, the last Powerball, our group won $4.
And how did you split that?
We reinvested it.
Oh, very clever. I would have never thought of that. Well, here's the dealio.
Okay.
According to the Powerball people, your odds of winning are 1 in 175.2 million, okay?
Wow, yeah.
It's not bad. It's not good, though. More importantly, 80% of all the available combinations have been taken already.
Okay.
Meaning that there's a 4 out of 5 chance that it's going to hit tonight.
Oh, boy, that sounds good.
Yeah, and if it goes a little higher, they may get to the point where it's going to be, maybe 4.5 out of 5. So it's very unlikely that the Powerball will grow any bigger than tonight. But actually, I already bought the winning ticket, so I'm pretty sure it is not going to grow anymore after tonight. I'm just hoping that nobody else bought the winning ticket at the same time, because I would hate to find out that my $600 million is kicked down to a mere $300 million because some guy in Virginia or Idaho or, God forbid, California.
Yeah. But you're going to share it with your mother then, right?
Oh, woo. Listen, I do think if I won the lottery tonight, I promise you, I will give you $20 and
nice
a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And I'll name you in some kind of crazy family trust, because actually, what would you do if you won the Powerball? So this is a legal show, so I should tell you this. If you actually won the Powerball, you should not run down to the freaking lottery and go, I won, okay?
No, you hold it. You hide it.
You're going to hide it? You got to hide it. You don't want to wait too long, though. You don't want fire or bugs or termites or something to get it. So what you're going to do then is you're going to come see a lawyer like me, probably me if you win, I hope. And what we're going to do is we're going to get a big fat trust created, and the trust is going to claim this thing. And the trust is going to be able to... So, for instance, let me give you a classic amateur mistake. You win the Powerball, right? You take the cash option, you get your $300 million. And you go, I just want to give $10 million to Art Selby because he's a swell guy. Well, now you got to pay gift tax. Because once you took the money and you give Art $10 million, the federal government's going to say you got a $5 million exemption, but you got to pay gift tax on that $5 million. But if you had simply created a trust in the first instance that left most of the money to you but gave a beneficial interest to Art of that money, you could avoid having to pay gift tax on it.
Well, that sounds good. I like that idea.
Back up for a second. I'm sure you want to give your scrungy son some money. And me too. So you can give the scrungy ones less and you can give me more. And what we would do is we would have a trust and we'd put everybody in his beneficial interests, et cetera, et cetera. And of course you need to take care of the grandkids.
That's correct.
You know, and the trust should include provisions to take care of the parents of the grandkids, in case the parents waste all their money first. And anyhow, my point being is you can use that trust vehicle to set everything up in a way that's going to minimize consequences and also shield from creditors.
That's important.
You create inside the main trust all these other trusts that get funded. I've seen these documents before. I rarely have a client that's rich enough to need these things, and I definitely don't. But if we did win the Powerball, and I say
we'd be rich enough to need them.
Right, you need to have those things. So my point is, to all our dear listeners, should you win the Powerball, remember, you can get my cell phone number on Facebook. You just have to friend me. And then you just get a hold of me, and we'll take care of everything. And by the time Monday morning rolls around, we will have a big fat trust document. And you want to do one thing special in Pennsylvania, because I know this for a fact. We did it once. I had a client win a multi-$100,000 lottery one time. And you can create a trust in Pennsylvania, and that trust, your name does not have to show up in the public record. Only the name of the trustee has to show up in the public record.
And that's good.
And so you can hide your identity and win the lottery if you do it right.
So you don't have 5 million cousins come to visit.
Right. Now, I would think that if I won the lottery, I would just look forward to having random women throwing themselves at me as I walk down the street. I think that would be kind of exciting.
Whatever.
Whatever is right.
Right.
Okay. I just got home, so
Oh, did I offend you? I'm sorry.
No.
Did you plant any plants yet?
Didn't.
What's going on up there?
No, I haven't planted plants because we had a frost the other night, and it didn't hit most of the flatlands along the lake. However, one of our grape growers told us that it did hit a few places for some reason, and just probably because of the way they sit, are located. But yes, they did, and in the hill they did have frost. So actually nobody's planted much of anything. Although my spinach came back up and it's growing great guns.
Okay, so you do have a little something going
from last year. Yeah.
Very
and I
nice.
still haven't planted the shallots, and I'm just not in the planting mood right now. I got to get the outer rims of my garden shored up because I have those boards and they're starting to fall apart, so I have to replace them.
Get the Yamish down there.
Yeah,
see, they think down here, by the way, in central Pennsylvania, that they have like the corner on the market of Amish.
Yeah,
and I'm very unimpressed by that because I'm like, we have them too where I come from.
Yeah.
We can talk about them on the radio. I don't they own radios, so it's okay.
No, they don't. In most cases, no.
But
nope, they don't have any radios, and they don't even have, in most cases, power or anything.
Right, except for the tractor with no wheels that runs the sawmill.
Yeah. That's true.
Go figure. All right. I'll let you go.
Well, thank you for calling.
No problem. Oh, by the way, I have on my Facebook page, I have a picture of your guacamole somebody made and posted.
Oh, wonderful.
And then somebody else tried it, and they loved it.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
So, and I haven't got reports. I haven't got reports back on the bread yet, the fruitcake that everybody likes, according to you. The Bishop bread. I don't have a report back on that yet, but I'm looking for it. And as soon as I do, I'll forward you.
Who could turn down chocolate chips and cherries,
That's true. Except that they're baked into a fruitcake. But is that the one you send me at Christmas sometimes?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then I can vouch for it.
Yeah, it's not regular fruitcake. It's regular fruitcake. Most people don't like the taste of it, but this is not regular fruitcake.
Yeah, this is like a really good cookie bar thing.
Yes, it is. It is.
All right, well, I'll vouch for it then.
Okay.
All right. Love you, Mom.
Love you, too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, she's getting a little boring. Let me get rid of her. Randy, what's up?
Hey, Carl, thanks for taking my call. About a month ago, me and my wife got into a heated argument, and long story short, state police got called.
Okay.
Came to the house, of course, questioned both of us, and handcuffed me, but then unhandcuffed me. And they left us both there, deciding that we weren't a threat to each other or anything like that.
Right.
About 3 weeks later, I get a thing in the mail for being charged with, I forget what all it has on it. Nothing with hitting or anything like that, but intimidating and harassing and this, that, and the other. Right. And long story short, it's a $400 and some odd fine. And
is it a yellow ticket called a summary citation?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they subpoenaed her to be a witness for this state trooper. Does she have to go? Because, it's ridiculous. We don't want to cost ourselves $400 and some. All
right, hold on. When we come back from the break, I'm going to answer this cliffhanger, okay?
Okay.
540-0580.
An interview in which you said, it's not the worst thing to slap a woman now and then. As I remember, you said you don't do it with a clenched fist. It's better to do it with an open hand. Mm. Yeah. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't love that.
Am I back, Art? Was I was too busy trying to pull up the Sean Connery thing. All right, Randy.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the cliffhanger. First of all, if there's a subpoena, okay? She has to honor the subpoena. That would make her in contempt of court not to show up.
Okay.
However, usually if she didn't want to testify, and something that she would have... let me give you an example here by way of hypothetical. Let's assume that what she called the police about or said to the police that caused them to come was maybe an exaggeration or not 100% accurate, or maybe she was actually the aggressor, but whatever. We don't need to know. I don't need an answer, okay? Do not answer this.
Right.
Then she would have the right to invoke privilege. And, of course, you can't be made to testify. So if the two people who are present can't testify, and you can't use hearsay from her to convict you because that violates your right of confrontation, okay? Mm-hmm. Then they can't successfully prosecute you. So a lot of times what we do in cases like this is you would hire me and your wife would hire another attorney, and everybody would go to court, and magically the case would have to be dismissed.
That would probably be the route I need to go then, is what...
It's a pretty strong way to go. Because if you just go in there and try to explain yourself, you're probably going to get convicted. They're going to confront her with what she said that night. But if she invokes... And the reason we always counsel a victim who doesn't want to testify to get a lawyer is, A, so they don't get themselves in trouble, and B, because the government will bully them and make them feel like they have to give up their rights or whatever, and their own lawyer can stand as a bulwark between... an aggressive prosecutor or police officer.
Right.
All right?
I appreciate it. Yeah, and the thing with it is, the reason, as soon as they come in the house, they asked her, did he hit you or anything like that? She's like, no. Do you want to press charges? And she's like, no. So I thought it was all said and done and over, but apparently it wasn't.
All right, boss. Good luck.
Thank you, Carl.
This reminds me of this old goodie here.
An interview in which you said... It's not the worst thing to slap a woman now and then. As I remember, you said you don't do it with a clenched fist. It's better to do it with an open hand. Mm. Yeah. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I didn't love that.
I haven't changed my opinion.
You haven't?
No, not at all.
You think it's good
This
to
is Barbara
slap a
Walters talking to Sean Connery.
You don't think it's bad?
I don't think it's that bad. I think that it depends entirely on the circumstances and if it merits it. Yeah.
What would merit it?
Well, if you have tried everything else... And women are pretty good at this. They can't leave it alone. They want to have the last word, and you give them the last word, but they're not happy with the last word. They want to say it again and get into a really provocative situation. Then I think it's absolutely right.
There you go. That's Sean Connery on When It's Okay to Hit a Woman. Gene, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. What's going on?
Hi, Carl. Just a short question. I'm a 75-year-old widower, and I have 5 children. They are all beneficiaries of my 401k account, which I understand is not subject to probate, and it's not taxable. My question is, are there any, one of my children does not want the amount she is to receive to be public. Is there any way that anyone can find out how much each of my children receives?
From your 401k?
Yeah, they're beneficiaries.
I don't think it's going to become public, except that since they're all going to be divided equally, if one of the kids wants to run around and tell other people, but I don't see it as generally becoming public.
All right. Well, I didn't know.
But tell your daughter it's really simple. You say, here's what we'll do. We'll just divide the money up amongst the other 4 kids, and that way you don't have to worry about anybody ever learning about any money you received.
Yeah. Okay, as long as they're named as beneficiaries and not heirs, it's not taxable either, right?
Well, let me explain it this way. The short answer is no. The long answer is it could theoretically become into a tax calculation as part of a federally taxable estate, but we won't worry about that.
Oh, all right. Okay. Thank you, Carl.
All right, boss.
All right, bye.
I don't want anybody to know how much money I got. What's going to happen? These guys are just going to start throwing themselves at me. Who says something like that? Don, you're on the air.
How you doing today, Carl?
Hey.
I purchased a house last year. There was a section of it that has a fence around it. And through the course of the year, the neighbor said that was his property, where the fence was. And I got with the title search company.
Okay.
And they said, no, that's absolutely yours. I looked at the township tax plot map. It states that it's mine. The previous owner is the one that fenced.
Where'd you go? Did we lose him? He hung up. Oh, my gosh. I was just about to get excited. I think he's trying to tell me that somebody put a fence over some of his land. So we need to find out how many years it was there. Because it was more than 21 years, they may have adverse possession. But if it was done with permission, then it wouldn't be a problem. On our other caller, just hung out. Is our phone lines going down, Art? Is that what's... Oh, what happened to him? Huh. Oh, well. Maybe I hit the wrong button. Quite possible. Hopefully he'll call back. I was going to blame it on the fact that there's this giant sunspot that's rotated directly facing the Earth here on Saturday, and it's been throwing off some major solar flares. And they say if it were to erupt right now, we could really get some grid communication problems. So I'm guessing that's exactly what happened there, because it couldn't possibly have been that one of my fingers accidentally hit the wrong button on the phone, because that has never, as the regular listeners know, ever happened before. Right? Have I ever hung up on you? Think about that. Think back. Have I ever hung up on you? I know about 5 of you are saying yes, but there's at least 10,412 of you that I have not hung up on, and I want to make sure that you appreciate that fact. Art, we got him back yet? No? He's back. Boss, I didn't mean to hang up on you. You were really... Okay, go ahead.
Okay, what happened, Carl, is I bought the house. They're claiming that the guy I bought the house from put the fence on the property that was his.
Okay.
But yet, when we check the township plot map, it shows that piece of property as being on mine. I'm the one being taxed for it. And the gentleman bought the house, I bought it from, had the house in 1969.
So the fence is on your property?
Yes, but the gentleman's claiming that that the fence is on his property, that piece of property is his.
Right, your neighbor is.
Right, and yet my title company said, no, that's clear and free, that's yours.
Right. You need to do usually what you need to do is do a survey.
Okay.
That shows where the fence actually sits in reality vis-a-vis the property lines. Okay. And if it's been there since 1969, the other guy may own the property by the concept of adverse possession.
Well, no, I'd be the one that would own it under adverse possession.
Oh, because your fence goes over onto the other guy's property.
Right.
Oh,
right.
Okay, yeah. Well, then definitely do it. Go get the survey, okay. And we'll file a lawsuit to quiet title. And we'll get you that piece of property, absolutely. Or the survey will come back and say everybody's wrong and you're right, and the fence is still on your property, and then you don't even need to do any quiet title.
Right. Okay.
But you got to do the survey first. It's expensive, but necessary.
Okay, thank you, Carl.
All right, boss.
All right, bye-bye.
I had it in reverse in my mind somehow. I don't know how this happens. Getting old and senile. But yeah, absolutely. So if that fence has been there for a really long time, and it does pay, by the way, folks, to clear up these title issues, because once you're aware of them, once you're aware that there's a claim such as that, then you've got to disclose it to future purchasers. So you've just lost value to your house if you don't clean this stuff up. And so it behooves you to do it. And where it's such a clear-cut case, if a fence has been up, also, by the way, there's another concept I've almost forgot about called consentable boundaries. In Pennsylvania, it's a little different than adverse possession because it can even be by agreement. Because remember my usual rule that if I give you permission to come onto my land, then that's okay because you have a license. Well, if parties put a fence down on a boundary or a tree line or something, and both sides put it there and then it stays there for more than 21 years, the doctrine of consentable boundaries says that that seems to be where the parties want the boundary to be between the two properties. Therefore, that's where it shall be. So it's a little different than adverse possession because it doesn't require adversity and it doesn't require an actual conflict and it doesn't require anything more than one person or both persons to put up a boundary line of some sort made out of some sort of thing, trees, fences, bushes, hedges. I guess a piece of wire might even work, think of barbed wire or that sorts of things, high tensile horse fence, whatever. If you put that down, then it seems to be where you guys agreed the boundary is. Now, a lot of times if you go to horse pastures, you'll notice that there's a gap between the one guy's pasture and the other guy's pasture before the wires are to keep the horses from interacting and things like that. That's not going to become a consentable boundary because it still leaves a gray area in between. So it's like literally when the fence runs down the property line or what the parties thought was the property line, and it's there for more than 21 years. Anyhow, just a thought. It's a little different than our usual conversation about adverse possession. Now, you guys know I'll be back next week from 1 to 3. In the meantime, if you need to hire me, go to RomingerLaw.com. Don't forget to friend me on Facebook. It's Carl with a K, Rominger, Rominger. My cell phone number is available in emergencies through the Facebook system. See you next week.